happen to a guy like me?
Let's slow things down for a moment and really take in where Power Book 3, Raising Kanan stands right now, because Season 5 is officially on the way. But make no mistake, it's not going to be what anyone is expecting. And that alone is worth talking about. As you probably remember, Season 4 ended in one of the most devastating ways possible. In the final moments of the episode titled, Give Me the Weight, Kanan and Rack finally came face to face. After being shattered by the murders of his best friend and Crystal, his girlfriend, Kanan reached his breaking point. Convinced his own mother was behind everything he had lost, he raised a gun, right at her. Then everything went silent. A gunshot echoed. The screen cut to black. And just like that, the penultimate season came to a brutal end. And honestly, that moment hurt because it felt earned. Showrunner Sasha Penn even addressed it, explaining, "For Rack's final scene, we wanted to make sure it felt earned. It didn't feel over the top because we've built these really compelling characters and this complex mother-son dynamic." And when fans question Kanan's reasoning, Penn reminds us exactly who he still is at this point in his life. First off, of course he's 17 years old. Every 17-year-old is operating on bad information. What we wanted to get across in that scene is the pain and desperation that both characters feel that things have reached this point. Patina Miller echoed that same emotional weight, revealing just how intense filming those moments truly was. It was one of the most intense nights. We were mourning the whole relationship. It was incredibly emotional. It was a dark night. Whether Rack survived or not, one thing is certain. Season 4 ended with her power fractured and the Thomas family changed forever. And then came the confirmation that hit even harder. Season 5 will be the final season of Raising Kanan. According to Sasha Penn, that was always the plan. He explained, "When I first pitched Raising Kanan, I said I thought it would be 5 seasons. Some of the decisions I made came from knowing there was, for lack of a better word, an ending to the story. So in other words, this was never meant to run endlessly. And when you look at it through that lens, everything suddenly clicks into place. Season 5 will open with the aftermath of that gunshot hanging over every character. Even if Rack is gone, her presence won't be." Penn described it as characters living through her shadow, because Rack has left an imprint that cannot be erased. Even in absence, she will still shape every decision Kanan makes moving forward. And at this point, Kanan has crossed a line he can never return from. Season 4 wasn't just a turning point. It was the moment he emotionally and spiritually stepped into the man we first met in Power. Season 5 will deal with the consequences of that transformation. Meanwhile, the Thomas family is barely holding together. Long before that final confrontation, Rack's relationships with Marvin and Lou were already breaking apart. Lou's battle with alcoholism and his desire to escape the streets through music pulled him away from the business, forcing Marvin back into the chaos. But as history has shown, trust in this family never fully repairs itself. As Patina Miller put it, she doesn't trust Lou and she doesn't trust Marvin. So even though they're family, she's in the middle trying to navigate those relationships. And then there's Jukebox, whose journey remains one of the most heartbreaking transformations in the entire Power universe. Even the cast recognizes just how unique her arc truly is. Sasha Penn praised Hailey Kilgore's performance, noting that watching these characters grow was always part of the vision. One of the real joys of writing Raising Kanan is seeing these kids grow into young adults. Season 4 ended with Jukebox confronting Rack. And in that moment, whatever emotional bond remained between them completely shattered. A crucial turning point heading into the final season. Then came another major moment. The introduction of one of the most legendary names in Power history, Breeze. In the finale, Snaps and Pop introduce Kanan to their nephew, Bradford Freddie, better known as Breeze, played by Shamar Moore. Fans have been waiting for this moment since 2014. Breeze is the kingpin who once employed Kanan, Ghost, and Tommy, setting the foundation for the empire that would eventually collapse from within. Shamar Moore himself understands the weight of the role, saying, "The Power Universe fans have been patiently waiting for this moment, and I'm honored to step into the iconic role of Breeze. I can't wait for fans to see how he shifts the dynamics. It's going to be a wild ride." Sasha Penn also acknowledged the debate the casting might spark. Everyone will have their own vision of who Breeze is supposed to be. But one thing is clear: Breeze couldn't just appear out of nowhere. He had to emerge naturally from the world Raising Kanan built. Now Season 5 sits at a powerful crossroads. It's the final chapter of Raising Kanan, but also a potential bridge into something much larger. Breeze's arrival perfectly sets the stage for Power Origins, a prequel exploring the time between Raising Kanan and the original Power. While Origins hasn't officially been greenlit yet, Penn confirmed the writers are already developing it, saying, "We're in the lab on Origins right now." He also hinted that Ghost and Tommy's influence will begin entering Kanan's world not long after this point. As for Season 5's release, Starz hasn't announced a date yet, but expectations point towards spring or summer 2026. Season 5 of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, opens in the shadow of consequences, not possibilities. There is no reset, no clean slate, no version of events where the Thomas family walks away unchanged. Because Season 4 didn't just end with drama. It ended with a breaking point that rewrote every relationship in the story. Kanan stood in front of his mother with a gun in his hand, fueled by pain, betrayal, and the weight of everything he had lost. And in that single moment, the line between love and destruction disappeared completely. Now Season 5 has to deal with what happens after a son crosses that line. Even if the trigger wasn't fully pulled, the damage already exists. The first look at Season 5 makes one thing clear right away. Nothing feels safe anymore. The world around Kanan is colder, more distant, and more unstable than ever before. The trust that once held the Thomas family together is gone, replaced by silence, suspicion, and emotional distance that no one knows how to fix. Raquel's influence still lingers everywhere, even if her physical presence is uncertain. Because this season isn't about whether she lives or dies. It's about what she has already turned into inside her family. A ghost. A warning. A memory that refuses to fade. And Kanan, he is no longer the same teenager we saw earlier in the story. Something inside him has shifted permanently. Season 5 doesn't present him as a boy caught in the middle anymore. It shows him as someone slowly becoming the version of himself that the future already warned us about. The anger is deeper now. The decisions feel heavier. And every choice he makes seems like it is pushing him one step closer to the man he is destined to become, even if that path is built on loss. What makes this season even more intense is the way everyone around Kanan is also collapsing in their own way. Marvin and Lulu are no longer just dealing with business problems, they are dealing with broken loyalty inside their own bloodline. The cracks between them and Raquel never fully healed, and now those cracks are turning into distance that might never close again. Marvin is still trying to hold things together through control and discipline, but control doesn't mean anything when trust is already gone. And Lulu, still haunted by his own desire to escape the street life, feels more disconnected from the family than ever before. But even as the family falls apart, the streets don't slow down. The world outside the Thomas family is evolving faster than they can handle. New power players are stepping into position, and old alliances are starting to shift in ways that nobody can fully predict. Every move feels like a setup for something bigger, something more dangerous, something that will eventually swallow everyone involved. And in the middle of all this chaos, Kanan is changing in a way that cannot be reversed. Season 5 doesn't try to hide it. It leans into it. Every glance, every decision, every moment of silence feels like it is shaping him into the man we already know he will become in the future timeline of Power. But what makes it painful is not just the transformation itself. It's watching how early it starts to happen. Because this is not a sudden shift. It's a slow erosion of everything innocent that was left inside him. The first look also teases something deeper underneath all the family drama. A sense that this is not just the end of a season, but the beginning of the final chain reaction. Every character feels like they are moving toward a point of no return, even if they don't realize it yet. The tension isn't loud or explosive yet. It's quiet, controlled, and far more dangerous because of that. As Season 5 continues to take shape, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This is no longer just a story about survival in the streets, it's a story about consequences finally catching up to everyone. The first look makes it feel like every character is walking through the wreckage of their own decisions, trying to act like things can still be repaired, even though deep down, everyone already knows they can't. Because once trust is broken inside a family like this, it doesn't disappear. It turns into silence, distance, and eventually, enemies living under the same roof. Kanan sits at the center of all of it, but he no longer feels like someone being pulled in different directions. Season 5 shows him becoming more isolated, more internal, and more dangerous in the way he processes everything around him. The pain from Season 4 doesn't just sit in his past anymore. It becomes the lens through which he sees everything. Every conversation feels suspicious. Every promise feels temporary. Every relationship feels like it has an expiration date. And that kind of mindset doesn't just change how he reacts, it changes who he is becoming. Raquel's presence, whether physical or emotional, continues to cast a long shadow over the entire story. Even when she is not directly in a scene, she is still there in the decisions people make. Because Season 5 makes it clear that her influence on Kanan is not something that can simply fade away. It has already been embedded inside him. The ambition, the anger, the survival instinct, even the emotional distance. All of it traces back to her. And now the question quietly grows in the background. Was Kanan shaped by her love? Or by her control? At the same time, the fractures inside the Thomas family continue to widen. Marvin and Lulu are no longer operating as a united force, even if they still share the same blood. As the story of Season 5 deepens, the first look begins to reveal something even more unsettling. This isn't just about the collapse of one family anymore. It's about the rise of something much larger in the background. Every move, every decision, every fracture inside the Thomas family seems to be feeding into a bigger shift in power that none of them fully understand yet. Because while they are focused on their own survival, the streets around them are reorganizing into something far more dangerous and far more permanent. Kanan's transformation continues to sit at the center of it all, but now it feels less like a change and more like a confirmation of something that was always going to happen. Season 5 shows him stepping further away from the idea of innocence, not in one explosive moment, but through a series of quiet emotional withdrawals. He is no longer asking the same questions he once did. He is no longer searching for guidance or approval in the same way. Instead, he is beginning to trust something else entirely, his own judgment, no matter how cold or destructive it becomes. And that shift is what makes him dangerous. Because when Kanan stops looking for validation, he stops being influenced and starts becoming inevitable. At the same time, Raquel's legacy inside the family continues to fracture everything it touches. Even in her absence, she remains the center of emotional gravity. Marvin still struggles with the idea of loyalty versus survival, constantly trying to balance his role as both brother and enforcer. But that balance is collapsing under pressure. Every decision he makes feels heavier than the last, as if the consequences are stacking faster than he can manage. Lulu, meanwhile, is becoming more emotionally distant, as if he is slowly disconnecting from the entire foundation of the life he was once part of. And when someone starts to emotionally leave a world like this, they rarely return the same. The first look also hints at something that cannot be ignored: the emergence of new forces that are beginning to reshape the entire environment around them. These are not just rival players or temporary threats. They feel more structured, more intentional, and more connected to the long-term evolution of power in this universe. Every interaction feels like part of a larger game being played just outside the Thomas family's awareness. And that makes everything more dangerous because they are still reacting like they are in control, when in reality the board is already changing beneath them. But the most important shift in Season 5 is not happening in the streets or in the business. It is happening inside Kanan himself. Because the version of him we see now is not reacting emotionally anymore. He is adapting. And that adaptation is what pushes him closer to the identity fans already know from the original Power timeline. The anger is no longer chaotic. It is focused. The pain is no longer random. It is processed into something colder. Even his silence carries weight now, as if he is constantly calculating instead of feeling. And that is what makes Season 5 feel different from everything before it. It is not just showing us what happens next. It is showing us how a person becomes someone we already know step by step, without ever being able to turn back. The first look captures this perfectly, not through big moments but through atmosphere. Everything feels tighter, more controlled, and more emotionally restrained. There is no safety net anymore. Every character feels like they are one decision away from changing everything permanently. And as that pressure builds, one truth becomes clearer with every passing moment. Season 5 is not just continuing the story of raising Kanan, it is preparing the final shape of it.